Chapter 20 Default Fusion. Sparkle Cadet used her wand again with more bubbles coming out, floating around her friends and her new friend she made in an instant. After Steven and Craig agreed to hang out with her, Steven decided to turn into his little kid form again. From the way he saw Sparkle Cadet's performance, he didn't hesitate, wanting to experience her style that he is taking a liking to. You know, just because you're free to turn into a kid whenever you want, doesn't mean, well, you're coat rack, Kelsey said, holding on to Steven's coat. I don't mind being a coat rack, JP replied, even though I still need my eyes so I can see where I'm going. You just want to smell his cologne, do you? That's why he agreed to have you carry it, Alma replied. But still, this has to be the happiest I've seen him so far. In front of them, with more bubbles appeared from the wand, Steven used his bubble powers to seal multiple small bubbles, while popping them with multiple sparkles coming out from them. So beautiful, Sparkle Cadet commented with sparkles in her eyes. I didn't think you could actually do that, Craig added. There are more ways for my gem powers to create magical perceptions, Steven smiled. I have to say, Sparkle Cadet, you really know how to spread joy in the same ways like I used to when I was a kid. You're technically a kid right now after you turned into one, but I've been thinking about your gem since the moment I saw it last night, Sparkle Cadet said. Were you also thinking about Aquamarine and Ruby in the same ways the sewer kids once did, as in feel? A little bit. The battle you had with them last night wasn't a lie. It felt almost dangerous if they decided to battle against me. They will never face you in a battle unless you have something they need, which you don't. We're also lucky there's no gem war going on, especially here, otherwise you would actually train if you were a gem, Craig replied. Sparkle Cadet wanted to know more about the gems as much as some of the kids at the creek, but at the same time, she wants no part of Ruby and Aquamarine by avoiding them at all costs. Steven, she asked for Steven's attention, by any chance would you be willing to bring a few kids like us to go where your friends and family live? Steven bites his lip, knowing at least one kid in the creek would want to head to his old home. Sorry, but no. It's become a very private part of my life, and calling them, I don't think they'd approve of it. Aww, she lowered her head. It would have been amazing to go there. Sparkle Cadet, even if he's willing to do it, and from what he told me, everything there is in good shape. But he wants to move forward for himself. This caused Craig to look away, even though we still need to fix my pink eye problems. Maybe if he didn't turn out the way he is, I'm sure he would have accepted your offer, Alma said from behind. But then again, we still saw what he almost did to Eliza, so maybe it's best we just have fun rather than thinking about the worst parts, Kelsey responded. Yes, Steven agreed. But I'm the champion of goodness and positivity, Sparkle said. Sparkle Cadet, I like your style, but if you really want me to have positivity, let's try to find something similar to that. Which has nothing to do with the events from last night, Craig filling in. If only we can find negativity to get positivity out of it. The group made their way to the biggest boulder of the creek. Craig and Steven spent most of their time hanging out with Sparkle Cadet. They didn't bother to look into the map, nor pick which place they wanted to go next. Steven took notice of the boulder with a small entrance underneath. As for Craig, it was only a matter of time he'll show Steven the only grown kids in the creek. Upon stepping in front of the boulder from a distance, Steven turned to Craig. What's this place? He pointed. Elder Walk, Craig answered. Me and my friends actually went there for ElderCon earlier this year. I was in a trivia game involving my favorite video game character, Slide the Ferret. He also cosplayed the character, Kelsey added. But for a heads up, the elders of the creek never shower, nor have even decent hygiene. Especially when they spend most of their time there, Alma replied. Stephen looked at Elder Walk itself. It looks really interesting to say the least. If I did go to school, I would get to meet these people as long as they showered and at the very least brushed their teeth. You'll be surprised, Craig said. You would meet them in high school. This caused Stephen to look at Craig yet again. You actually mean that? Inside the entrance, the leader of Elder Walk saw Stephen through the entrance. He didn't miss the news involving what happened last night. In fact, he's far more impressed to believe Stephen himself. Yes, he actually meant that, Alma added. These people are the only teenagers in the creek, Craig filling in. So much weird stuff happens in the creek. But at least people are in the same grade as us, JP replied. Why do I get the feeling these elders reminds me of someone back at Beach City? Stephen placed his hands on his hips. There was someone back at your place who was like the elders of the creek. Is he worse than them? Craig spoke. Stephen looked up at the sky while giving the kids his honest answer. Let's just say he doesn't live under a boulder, but he takes any weirdness he finds seriously in his blogs online. Craig also placed his hands on his hips. They also show activity online, but not weirdness. The elders came out from underneath the boulder, revealing themselves to Stephen, which took him by surprise. The outfits weren't something the person back at Beach City would wear, but that's because he never went to a convention involving teenagers, especially any teenager in high school. The leader of the elders walked up to Stephen, looking down in his childlike form with a smile on his face. The reflection from the sun towards his glasses went away the moment he took one more step, closer to Stephen, who took a step back after smelling his breath. I knew you would inevitably come here, he replied. I'm Elder Mark. I'm Elder Barry, Barry standing next to Mark, and I'm Elder David, David spoke on the other side. We're the elders of the creek. Mark presented him and his friends. I've heard that you had a battle against Bluebird, right? Yes, you knew that? Ruby and Aquamarine were in the fusion. Yes, Mark answered immediately. Oh boy. Alma spoke quietly. We've been catching up on the details of the powers, the cause of the rain, and your shield, Barry added. To think anime was all a lie, it turns out all anime is real, David commented. No, anime still doesn't exist. Stephen slowly leaned back. If you're thinking about joining me in stopping them, you would definitely regret it. It's never that easy. Also, Craig chiming in, it wasn't in this form. It was his regular form, his teenage form. Even though, he closed his eyes, he's 14 like this. I don't believe you, Mark retorted. If you think for a second we would regret joining his team, you wouldn't even last 3 seconds in a battle with him. Oh no, Stephen sighed. It's all coming back now. What do you mean? Look, back at my old home, there was a guy named Leonardo who joined my team, and he was bad. How bad? Sparkle Cadet asked. Arrogant, close-minded, and lazy levels of bad. Mark didn't like what he heard from Stephen. In fact, it made him slightly furious on the inside. Me and the elders are none of those things. We practice all day from any fight or war that comes our way. Oh, like what war? The war of Capture the Flag, where you three didn't take part of our team? Kelsey guessed. We were having our family reunions, Mark retorted loudly. We couldn't even use our technology when our parents took them away, David added. They really wanted us to communicate with other family members. It was too awkward, Barry added. I could think of more reasons of how awkward it would have been, but I'm more convinced you wouldn't contribute a lot, Kelsey replied. Stephen couldn't disagree with Craig's friend, but as for the elders of the creek, he knows they won't leave him alone, just like Eliza from before. But then he remembered it almost turned into disaster, especially when Craig's eyes turning pink at any time. Can we try to settle this with something? Stephen asked. Elder Mark, can we make a deal? What deal? Mark paid attention. If you beat me in the battle, I'll hang out with you and your friends for the rest of the day. But what about Wildernesses? Craig spoke, but he got cut off. I'll skip it. He then looked back at Elder Mark. If you prove to me you can contribute in the battle, then I'll reconsider having you three on my side to defeat Bluebird. So it's a battle between the elders against your team. Mark liked the idea. And what if we lose? Not only will you leave me alone, but you'll be like Ronaldo. This caused Mark to flinch his fist. Fine. We'll meet you on the battlefield momentarily. Elders, let's get our armor on and weapons equipped. Let's show Steven Universe what warriors we are. He and his friends enter back into Elder Rock, while Craig and his friends stared at Steven. You seriously offered to battle against the elders of the creek? Kelsey reacted. Even by yourself, you could put them in the hospital. Don't worry, I'm gonna go easy on them, but we're still gonna win, Steven replied. Who do you want on your team? Armor asked. You two, he pointed at Craig and Sparkle Cadet. Us, both Craig and Sparkle Cadet said. This will be something we can work together all the while pretending to save the galaxy. Oh, that's right, Sparkle Cadet catching on. We should be called Bubble Galaxy Trio. That's a great team name, Craig agreed. That would also mean me and you are part of two trios. You two are also in another trio, Steven blinked. Yes, Sparkle answered. With Cannonball, we were called the Ice Pop Trio. It was an unforgettable summer we had last year. Man, if only Cookie Cats was still a thing to this day, you would have been called the Cookie Cat Trio. That is, if we actually like Cookie Cats, Craig replied. Just saying we prefer Ice Pops. Fair enough. I'm willing to stay as a kid a little longer to make it feel like we're a trio of kids. This is gonna be exciting, JP cheered. Bubble Galaxy Trio to victory. They head their way to the battlefield to prepare against the Elders of the Creek. Meanwhile, from the other side of the battlefield, Wildernesses, while still riding on cheese sticks, is still looking for Steven after searching for animals who haven't been trapped. Okay, today wasn't the best day with no animals trapped, but I had no other choice, she talked to Cheese Sticks. All I've been thinking about is what he said about Lion, who we've never gonna meet. When she turned to her left, she saw Craig, Sparkle Cadet, and Steven, but in his longer form. He didn't tell me he had a longer brother. Where is he? As she and Cheese Sticks watched them, the Elders of the Creek arrived with the weapons of swords from animes they watched, along with the armor from their favorite heroes on their bodies. They went into position, facing Steven, Craig, and Sparkle Cadet from the other side of the battlefield. Elder Mark walked up to Steven, looking down with a serious look on his face while lifting his sword up. This battle will end with one team victorious, while the other team falls from grace, he replied. Show me your weapon. Steven closed his eyes as his gem underneath glowed. While Barry and David were phased, Mark, on the other hand, didn't. Steven's shield appeared on his arm, which catched Sparkle Cadet in bedazzle. Such sparkling powers, she thought. A shield, Steven replied. It's the only weapon I always use in battle, so you'll always defend yourself, Mark replied. I would have preferred something better than that. I used to have allies who had a sword. That ally is also my girlfriend. Ugh, Mark retorted. Don't make it too personal, says the guy who has crushes on multiple anime shows, Craig replied. Not to mention making out with one of the body pillows with anime girls on it, Kelsey added. Huge difference! Mark pointed his sword at Craig's friends. Craig, Sparkle Cadet, show off your weapons. Craig lifted up his wooden staff while Sparkle Cadet lifted up her bubble wand. While Alita will always be in defense in battle, I'm his offense buddy, Craig replied. And I'm the power bubble magician, Sparkle Cadet added. Whenever they're at a disadvantage, I cue them with my bubbles. I seriously don't see how that's an advantage, David commented. Not a problem with us, Mark replied. We'll make sure we watch your every move. Both Mark and Steven's teams went back from separate sides of the battlefield. They went into battle position until Alma lifted his hand up, preparing the signal. As two teams paid attention to each other, Steven whispered into Craig and Sparkle Cadet's ear, preparing the first offense. Battle commenced! Alma called as the elders ran to strike attack, but then Steven grabbed Craig and Sparkle's hands. He jumped up in the air just before the elders attacked. Wow, Sparkle Cadet reacted as she saw the creak from above. I knew you were gonna do that, Craig cheered. Hey, that's cheating, Mark yelled. Hey, you wanted to see my powers, and I'm showing them right now, Steven smiled as he and his team landed on the ground. Mark rushed to Steven, striking with his sword as Craig and Sparkle Cadet got out of the way to face the other elders. The moment he strikes, Steven protects himself with his shield. He uses his strength to push Mark back, which only made him more tense. I'll let you know I can still beat you without any powers you have. You don't even know what it's like being a crystal gem, Elder Mark, he smirked. I don't blame you since my life wasn't a cartoon nor an anime, but you don't have all the knowledge of who I am. Craig used his staff against Barry and David while Sparkle Cadet stood behind them. As David swung his sword, Craig pushed him back while dodging, rolling by him while bumping him off balance. He bumped into Barry, which caused him to fall on the ground. Not only this caught the attention from Steven and Mark, but it impressed the Crystal Gem. He, at least, is catching on, he pointed at Craig. Does he know how to do fusion? Mark replied. If you want to know how I know about it, it's because fusion's the only description of people combining together. Steven agreed with Mark, but there's a detail he'll never understand. Even if you knew what fusion is about, you still don't know what it's like towards the person you're close to that makes the fusion work. He made his way to Craig just when Barry got back up to strike along with David. He protected him with his shield while Sparkle Cadet blew bubbles from her wand, distracting Barry and David. He took Craig's hand, pulling him away from the two. Mark couldn't catch on from what he heard as he focused back into battle. While the two teams continued to fight, JP, Kelsey, and Alma watched from the sidelines. Wildernessa continued to watch, while still hiding in the distance. She was impressed with Craig's offensive abilities and Steven's jumping defense, but Steven had another trick to surprise everyone. Wow, even as a kid, Steven still knows how to fight, Kelsey commented. Did we actually expect his team to lose? Alma replied. No, but like you said, he's going easy on them. It is kind of disappointing there's no gem war going on. We would have seen what he's really capable of. He did say that one of his allies uses a sword, JP added, while still holding on to Steven's shot. I bet his Crystal Gem buddies are more capable than him if we met them in person. Then he felt Steven's short pocket vibrating. He took out his phone and it's revealed to be a message from his girlfriend. Should we call a timeout? He showed the message to his friends. Kelsey and Alma read the message, but it wasn't a phone call request. In fact, it wasn't even a voicemail being sent. I don't think so, Alma replied. Bet someone will, Kelsey added. Back in the battlefield, Steven allowed Craig to jump onto his shield, lifting himself up in the air while hitting Mark with his staff, only for Mark to strike back with his sword. He landed on the ground while rolling out of the way just when David's about to strike with his sword. Sparkle Cadet went back to her team's side of the battlefield just when Barry prepared for another attack, but he couldn't keep up with the quickness. Okay, I'm sure they're gonna end up victorious, Barry said, taking deep breaths. This is not over yet, Mark yelled. You're making a huge mistake if you win. Elder Mark, Steven called back. I can prove to you right now that you would have been the one making a huge mistake. With confidence in his voice, he took Craig's hand, taking him by surprise as he's preparing to show the elders of the creek everything they've thought about all day. Me and Craig, despite some hiccups, can still do this all thanks to my gem. Wait, you mean we're gonna... Craig turned to Steven as he witnessed his gem glowing. Then his eyes glowed pink, but Steven knew it was gonna happen. Get ready. As the elders were taken aback from Steven and Craig glowing up, they also witnessed a portal appearing from behind. Just when the two were close to fusing, Sparkle Cadet also took notice of the portal. She saw what's inside, and the moment an animal's coming out, she pulled Steven and Craig out of the way, preventing the fusion from happening. The glow from Steven and Craig dissolved after getting interrupted. They both landed on the ground as the animal came out from the portal, along with Steven's girlfriend. Incoming! David called as he and the elders jumped out of the way for the animal to land in the battlefield. Steven! Connie called as she got off of Lion. Steven! The moment Steven saw Connie in full view, he immediately changed back into his current form. Connie? He spoke while getting back on his feet. Lion? Craig's friends and the elders couldn't believe what they saw, but the person who's more shocked was Wildernessa, who witnessed Lion from her own eyes. Not to mention Cheese Sticks flinched the moment he saw a pink lion in full view. Steven, what happened? Garnet called me and told me you needed support, so after finishing my college assignment, I had to get Lion to come over to Herkleton, Connie replied with Lion by her side. Steven had no words to describe the surprise that happened. Just when he's preparing to fuse with Quake, he witnessed JP and the others walking up to him while showing him his phone. She texted that she's coming over, JP replied. I'm just as speechless as you are, Alma added. Another surprise. Is this gonna be a thing with you from now on? Kelsey wondered. At least it wasn't severe, Steven said, taking his coat and phone from JP. Connie, this may sound crazy, but you interrupted a battle that's meant to be. When Connie turned around, she saw the elders of the creek getting back up while taking aback from Lion. You mean those guys? She pointed. They're not really enemies. Meant to be for a deal that wasn't that big. When Craig went back up on his feet, His pink eyes went away. He didn't have the chance to see what was in front of him, but he noticed Connie looking at him for the first time. Steven allowed Connie to walk up to him, meeting him who's the source of her boyfriend's stain. You must be Craig. Yeah, didn't expect to meet like this. Not to mention me and Steven were about to fuse. Hello, we're in the middle of a battle, Mark yelled, only for Lion to roar at him and the elders as they jumped back. Fuse? Connie turned to Steven. You were planning to fuse with him? Yes, but it was mostly for fun. If I had another way of resolving his pink eyes problem, Steven being honest. Why couldn't you tell him ahead of time? I don't know, I have little to fix the problem. It is true, Craig added. What about the battle against the Elders of the Creek? When everyone turned to the Elders of the Creek, they refused to step foot in the battlefield in fear from Lion himself. Elder Mark, I'm sorry this happened, but I wasn't a kid fighting Bluebird. I'm 17 years old right now. What about the fusion you were planning all the while? Barry asked, only for Steven to cut him off. I didn't plan for Connie and Lion to appear out here. When it comes to the fusion, stop, Elder Mark interrupted. Just stop. I may have never talked about the wars, but you seriously were way too unfair. I was still taking it easy on you. Trust me, you don't want to make him mad, Craig added. That wasn't the point, Mark retorted. I didn't want to see you and Craig fuse. The thought of that just makes me sick. Steven sighed while trying to be nice towards the elders. Did you want me to fuse with you? No, Mark answered, only for Steven and the others to give him glaring looks. Yes. That would take days, possibly weeks of work and connection. Trust me, you and your friends are way out of his league, Connie filled in. Elder Mark signed, admitting he can't deny the facts against him. Fine, your team wins, by way of forfeit. Good luck with your time here while it lasts. Let's go back, guys. Mark left the battlefield to head back to Elder Rock. Before his friends followed him, they had one thing to say to Steven. We really didn't expect much if we did win, Barry replied. Besides, we wouldn't stand against Bluebird knowing, David added, trying to find the answer. Mark is way over his head, Steven guessed. Yes. Yep, he's Renardno, but fully aware he's a jerk. You two really need to find better friends, Connie commented. We're still thinking about it. We're really not enjoying being around Mark, Barry finished as he and David followed Mark. Steven took a deep breath after his girlfriend and pet came in the worst timing. I have so much to fill you in on. Don't you think we should go somewhere less problematic? Craig offered. We can't even catch a break with people here demanding something from you or panicking. There has been a lot from that lately, Kelsey added. And now we have to deal with a pink lion following us. We're drawing too much attention here, no offense. Alma looked at Lion, who groaned. This is just as important to me as much to all of you, Connie replied. Besides, it's been a while since I last talked to Steven. Can we at least get to know each other? Yeah, I would have wanted her to be here if I called her, Steven replied while turning to Kelsey. Not to mention, she's a sword fighter. Kelsey's eyes shot open as she took out her sword. I volunteered to have Connie stay. You'll get some sword lessons if we have time. I'm starting to like these kids, especially that girl, Connie pointed at Sparkle Cadet. Then I'm willing to spread more positivity, Sparkle Cadet smiled. I really like your Lion. If you're gonna try to spread more positivity, the most appropriate way is to check up on my sister who my brother's unable to take care of. Craig taking out his map. Let's prevent negativity by heading there right away, Steven replied. Agreed. Craig took his group to the destination where his sister is at. Just when Lion left the battlefield, he turned around to see if anyone's spying on him. Wildernessa and Cheese Sticks hid themselves, preventing any contact from Lion, but they couldn't resist. They wanted to jump out, but Lion barely knew the kids in the creek and could view anyone as an enemy. Luckily, Lion followed the group, not alerting them at all. "Oh good," Wildernessa sighed in relief. "Don't worry, we're gonna follow them. I wouldn't miss the opportunity and I wouldn't have you miss yours." She and Cheese Sticks followed them while taking a different route in the creek, ready to meet the animal that helped Steven from his past. It's our first and probably only time we're ever gonna see him in our lives.